Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So today we are going to be probably finishing up the book of Job. Maybe we'll see how long it takes. And so we'll wait a few minutes before we get started. It's right at 5, and so we'll maybe wait maybe like a minute or two. Uh-oh. Yeah, today we are on day 75 of going through the Bible in 6 months. And so let's go ahead and pray really so we can get started. Let me first make sure I have the right audio connected. Good morning, Thunder Beast. Good morning. Let's see. Good morning, Nicola. Okay, so pray really quick. I think we're going to probably go ahead and finish the book of Job today, so we'll see. Um, but let's pray. Lord, we just thank you so much for this morning. We thank you for a new day, a new grace. We pray that you would interpret your word for us this morning, Lord, as we read through it, that you would give us revelation, that you would open our eyes, our ears, our minds, things that are not necessarily seen on the surface level, but Lord, explain to us and expose to us the deep things of your words. I pray right now, Lord, that you would just bless each and every single person that comes across this live. I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so let's see. So we know so far from what we've read that Job has three friends, and his friends are not very good comforters. They have accused him of doing wrong. Job maintains his integrity. He's like, I've not done anything wrong. And his friends are insisting that in order for God to pull you through the woes, that you must have done something wrong. And so chapter 27, Job maintains his integrity. So it says, moreover, Job continued his discourse and said, as God lives, who has taken away my justice, and the Almighty, who has made my soul bitter, as long as my breath is in me, and the breath of God in my nostrils, my lips will not speak wickedness, nor my tongue utter deceit. Far be it from me that I should say you are right. Till I die, I will not put away my integrity from me. My righteousness I hold fast and will not let it go. My heart shall not reproach me as long as I live. May my enemy be like the wicked, and he who rises up against me like the unrighteous. For what is the hope of the hypocrite, though he may gain much? If God takes away his life, will God hear his cry? When trouble comes upon him, will he delight himself in the Almighty? Will he always call on God? I will teach you about the hand of God. What is with the Almighty, I will not conceal. Surely all of you have seen it. Why then do you behave with complete nonsense? This is the portion of a wicked man with God, and the heritage of oppressors received from the Almighty. If his children are multiplied, it is for the sword, and his offspring shall not be satisfied with bread. Those who survive him shall be buried in death, and their widows shall not weep, though he heaps up silver like dust, and piles up clothing like clay. He may pile it up, but the just will wear it, and the innocent will divide the silver. He builds his house like a moth, like a booth which a watchman makes. The rich man will lie down, but not be gathered up. He opens his eyes, and he is no more. Terrors overtake him like a flood. A tempest steals him away in the night. The east wind carries him away, and he is gone. It sweeps him out of his place. It hurls against him and does not spare. He flees desperately from its power. Men shall clap their hands at him and shall hiss him out of his place. Surely There is a mine for silver, and a place where gold is refined, is taken from the earth, and copper is smelted from ore. Man puts an end to darkness and searches every recess for ore in the darkness and the shadow of death. He breaks open a shaft away from people and places forgotten by feet. They hang far away from men. They swing to and fro. As for the earth, from it comes bread, but underneath it is turned up as by fire. Its stones are the source of sapphires, and it contains gold dust. That path no bird knows, nor has the falcon eye seen it. The lion have not trodden it, nor has the fierce lion passed over it. He puts his hand on the flint. He overturns the mountains at the roots. He cuts out channels in the rock, and his eye sees every precious thing. He dams up the streams from the trickling. What is hidden he brings forth light. But where can wisdom be found? And where is the place of understanding? Man does not know its value, nor is it found in the land of the living. The deep says, it is not in me. And the sea says, it is not with me. It cannot be purchased for gold, nor can silver be weighed for its price. It cannot be valued in gold or ophir, in precious onyx or sapphire. Neither gold nor crystal can equal it, nor can it be exchanged for jewelry of fine gold. No mention shall be made of coral or quartz, for the price of wisdom is above rubies. The topaz of Ethiopia cannot equal it, nor can it be viewed in pure gold. From where then does wisdom come? And where is the place of understanding? It is hidden from the eyes of all living, and concealed from the birds of the air. Destruction and death say, we have heard a report about it with our ears. God understands its ways and he knows its place. He looks to the end of the earth and sees under the whole heavens to establish a weight for the wind and a portion for the waters by measure. When he made a law for the rain and a path for the thunderbolt, then he saw wisdom and declared it. He prepared it. Indeed, he searched it out. And to man he said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. Job further continued his discourse and said, oh, that I were as in months past, as in the days when God watched over me, when his lamp shone upon my head, and when by his light I walked through darkness, just as I was in the days of my prime, when the friendly counsel of God was over my tent, when the Almighty was yet with me, when my children were around me, when my steps were bathed with cream, and the rock poured out rivers of oil for me, and when I went out to the gate by the city, and when I took my seat in the open square, the young men saw me and hid, and the aged arose and stood. The princes refrained from talking and put their hands on their mouth. The voice of nobles was hushed, and their tongue stuck to the roof of their mouth. And when the ear heard, then it blessed. It blessed me. And when the eye saw, then it approved me, because I delivered the poor who cried out, the fatherless, and the one who had no helper. The blessings of a perishing man came upon me, and I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. And I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My justice was like a robe and a turban. I was eyes to the blind, and I was feet to the lame, and I was a father to the poor. And I searched out the case that I did not know. I broke the fangs of the wicked, and plucked the victim from his teeth. Then I said, I shall die in my nest and multiply my days as sand. My root is spread out to the waters, and the dew lies all night on my branch. My glory is fresh within me, and my bow is renewed in my hand. Maybe, in previous videos, I mentioned that this particular passage was the passage that led me to believe or come to an understanding that Job was dealing with pride. And I think that maybe the pride that he's dealing with is something that he developed in the midst of his affliction of being afflicted with the different things that he's going through. For example, God did call him righteous in the beginning, but now he's reflecting on the things that whenever he was in his prime, he said, I shall die in my nest and multiply my days. I broke the fangs of the wicked and plucked the victims from his teeth. I think it can be interpreted two different ways. I think that one, you can, obviously I did this and God said that no, he was indeed righteous. But I thought, well, he was prideful and he had always been full. But I think that he could have developed a pride over a period of time, in the, being backed into a corner by the things that you're going through. So it's like, well, I did all this stuff and it got me nothing. So it could have been an indirect means of doing things for works. But I think another way to interpret this would be that God, he may be stating these things that because God's light was shining upon him, God was able to use him to accomplish these things. And maybe the way he's speaking is in a position of, I don't know though, because we're going to read that God's going to like come to him and base check him for like 4 chapters, like he gets dragged for 4 chapters. So I don't know. Let's finish reading through it. I'm just trying to reflect. And what are some of your thoughts on this? How do you guys interpret what Job meant, and the reasoning by why he would say that, would claim, that he did all these things? Do you think that he's saying that whenever God's light shone on him, that he was able to do these things and be used as a vessel, or do you think that because of all the affliction that he's dealing with, he's now reflecting on all things that he did and his works, and now he's saying, I did these things and this is what they got me? In the beginning, now the fact that he may possibly feel that way, I don't know, but the way that he may possibly feel that way, it does not mean that he's always that way. Sometimes whenever we're going through, like, you may be feeling great, this is just an example, but you may be feeling great about yourself and accepted yourself, but as soon as something comes up and you have piles of woes, so they're starting to pile up and pile up and pile up. I think that something that could take place would be, or something that could transpire would be, that having all these different stacks of woes, it could equate to you becoming very negative about even yourself, saying like, I have all these woes, and now I'm also like, not very smart, and I'm not very successful, and I'm not very attractive, and like nobody likes me. My dad would love me. My dog died at 2. You start thinking of all these different things that you went through. And so, what's your personal interpretation of that? He goes on to say in verse 21, men listened to me and waited and kept silence for my counsel. And after my words, they did not speak again. And my speech settled on them as dew. They waited for me as the rain, and they opened their mouth like wide as for the spring rain. If I mocked at them, they did not believe it. And the light of my countenance they did not cast down. I chose the way for them and sat as chief. So I dwelt as a king in the army, as one who comforts mourners. But now they mock me, men younger than I. Fathers I disdain to put with the dogs of my flock. Indeed, what profits is the strength of their hands to me? Their vigor had perished. They are gaunt from want and famine, fleeing late to the wilderness, desolate and waste, who pluck mallows by the bushes and broom tree roots for their food. They were driven out from among men. They shouted at them as at a thief, that to live in the clefts of the valleys, in caves of the earth and the rocks. Among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they nestled. They were sons of fools, yes, sons of vile men, and they were scourged from the land. And now I am their taunting song. Yes, I am their byword. So he's basically saying these people are like the lowest of the low, and now they look down on me. They arbor me. They keep far from me. They do not hesitate to spit in my face. Because he has loosed my bowstring and afflicted me, they have cast off restraint before me. At my right hand, the rabble arises. They push away my feet, and they race against me their ways of destruction. They break up my path. They promote my calamity. They have no helper. They come as broad breakers. Under the ruinous storm they roll along. Terrors are upon me. They pursue my honor as the wind, and my prosperity has passed like a cloud. And now my soul is poured out because of my plight. The days of affliction take hold of me. My bones are pierced in me at night, and my gnawing pains take no rest. By great force my garment is disfigured. It binds me about as the collar of my coat. He has cast me in the mire, and I have become like dust and ashes, and I cry out to you, but you do not answer me. I stand up, and you regard me, but you have become cruel to me. With the strength of your hand, with the strength of your hand. You oppose me. You lift me up to the wind and cause me to ride on it. You spoil my success, for I know that you will bring me to death and to the house appointed for all living. Surely he would not stretch out his hand against a heap of ruins if they cry out when he destroys it. Have I not wept for him who is in trouble? Has not my soul grieved for? But when I looked for good, evil came to me. And when I waited for light, then came darkness. My heart is in turmoil and cannot rest. Days of affliction confront me. I go about mourning, but in the sun. I stand up in the assembly and I cry out for help. I am a brother of jackals and a companion of ostriches, and my skin grows black and falls from me. My bones burn with fever. My harp is turned to mourning, and my flute to the voice of those who weep. And I've made a covenant with my eyes. Why then should I look upon a young woman? For what is the allotment of God from above, and the inheritance of the Almighty from on high? Is it not the destruction for the wicked, disaster for the workers of iniquity? Does he not see my ways and count all my steps? If I have walked with falsehood, or if my foot has hastened to deceit, let me be weighed on scales, that God may know my integrity. If my step has turned from the way, or my heart walked after my eyes, or if any spot adheres to my hands, then let me sow, and another eat. Yes, let my harvest be rooted out. If my heart has been enticed by a woman, or if I have lurked at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind for another, and let others bow down over her. For that would be wickedness. Yes, it would be iniquity deserving of judgment, for that would be a fire that consumes to destruction and would root out all my increases. If I have despised the cause of my male or female servant when they complained against me, what then shall I do when God arises up? When he punishes, how shall I answer him? Did not he who made me in the womb make them? Did not the same one fashion us in the womb? If I have kept the poor from their desire, or caused the eyes of the widow to fail, or eaten morsel by myself, so that the fatherless could not eat of it, but from my mouth I reared him as a father, and from my mother's womb I guided the widow. If I have seen anyone perish for lack of clothing, or any poor without covering, if his heart has not blessed me, and if he was not warmed with the fleece of my sheep, if I have raised my hand against the fatherless, when I saw I had help in the gate, then let my arm fall from my shoulder. Let my arm be torn from the socket, for destruction from God is a terror to me, and because of his magnificence I cannot endure. If I have made gold my hope, or said to find gold, you are my confidence. If I have rejoiced because my wealth was great, and because my hand had gained much, if I have observed the sun when it shines, or the moon moving in brightness, so that my heart has been secretly enticed, and my mouth has kissed my hand, this also would be iniquity, deserving of judgment, for I would have denied God who is above, if I have rejoiced at the destruction of him who hated me, or lifted myself up when evil found him. Indeed, I have not allowed my mouth to sin by asking for a curse for his soul, on his soul. If the men of my tent have not said, who is there that has not been satisfied with meat? But no sojourner had to lodge in the street. For I have opened my doors to the traveler. If I have covered my transgressions as Adam by hiding my iniquity in my bosom, because I feared the great multitude and dreaded the contempt of families, so that I kept silence and did not go out of the door, oh, that I had one to hear me. Here is my mark. Oh, that the Almighty would answer me, that my prosecutor had written a book. Surely I would carry it on my shoulder and bind it on me like a crown. I would declare to him the number of my steps. Like a prince, I would approach him. If my land cries out against me, and its furrows weep together, if I have eaten its fruit without money, or caused its owner to lose their lives, then let thistles grow instead of wheat, and weeds instead of barley. The words of Job are ended. And now Elihu he first comes after Job's friends. So these three men ceased answering Job because he was righteous in his own eyes. Then the wrath of Elihu, the son of Barachel the Buzite, of the family of Ram, was aroused against Job. His wrath was aroused because he justified himself rather than God. Also, against his three friends, his wrath was aroused because they had found no answer, yet had condemned Job. So now, because they were years older than he, Elihu had waited to speak to Job. When Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouth of these three men, his wrath was aroused. So Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, answered and said, I am young in years, and you are very old. Therefore I was afraid, and dared not declare my opinion to you. I said, age should speak, and multitude of years should teach wisdom. But there is a spirit in man, and the breath of the Almighty gives him understanding. Great men are not always wise, nor do the aged always understand justice. Therefore I say, listen to me. I also will declare my opinion. Indeed, I waited for your words. I listened to reasonings while you searched out what to say. I paid close attention to you, and surely not one of you convinced Job or answered his words. Lest you say, we have found wisdom, God will vanquish him, not man. Now he has directed his words against me, so I will not answer him with your words. They are dismayed and answer no more. Words escape them, and I have waited because they did not speak, because they stood still and answered no more. I also will answer my part. I too will declare my opinion. For I am full of words. The spirit within me compels me. Indeed, my belly is like wine that has no vent. It is ready to burst like new wineskins. I will speak that I may find relief. I must open my lips and answer. Let me not I show partiality to anyone, nor let any nor let me flatter any man, for I do not know how to flatter, else my maker would soon take me away. But please, Job, hear my speech and listen to all my words. Now I open my mouth. My tongue speaks in my mouth. My words come from my upright heart. My lips utter pure knowledge. The Spirit of God has made me, and the breath of the Almighty gives me life. If you can answer me, set your words in order before me. Take your stand. Truly, I am as your spokesman before God. I also have been formed out of clay. Surely no fear of me will terrify you, nor will my hand be heavy on you. Surely you have spoken in my hearing, and I heard the sound of your words, saying, I am pure without transgression, I am innocent, and there is no iniquity in me. Yet he finds occasions against me. He counts me as his enemy. He puts my feet in the stocks. He watches all my paths. Look, in this you are not righteous. I'll answer you, for God is greater than man. Why do you contend with him? For he does not give an accounting of any of his words. For God may speak in one way or in another, yet man does not perceive it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men, while slumbering on their beds, then he opens the ears of men and seals their instructions in order to turn man from his deed and conceal pride from men. He keeps back his soul from the pit and his life from perishing by the sword. Man is also chastened with pain on his bed, and with strong pain in many of his bones, so that his life offers bread, and his soul succulent food. His flesh wastes away from sight, and his bones stick out which once were not seen. Yes, his soul draws near the pit, and his life to the executioners. If there is a messenger from him, a mediator, one among 1,000, to show man his uprightness, then he is gracious to him, and says, deliver him from going down to the pit. I have found a ransom. His flesh shall be young like a child's, and he shall return to the days of his youth. He shall pray to God, and he will delight in him. He shall see his face with joy, for he restores to man his righteousness. And then he looks at men and says, I have sinned and perverted what was right, and it did not profit me. He will redeem his soul from going down to the pit, and his life shall see the light. Behold, God works all these things, twice, in fact, three times with a man, to bring back his soul from the pit, that he may be enlightened with the light of life. Give ear, Job, listen to me. Hold your peace, and I will speak. And I can imagine Job maybe trying to interrupt him here. That's why he's saying, give ear, Job, listen to me, hold your peace. But it says peace is like, shh, like be still, hold tight. I will speak. If you have anything to say, answer me. Speak, for I desire to justify you. If not, listen to me. Hold your peace, and I will teach you wisdom. So Elihu further answered and said, hear my words, you wise men, give ear to me, you who have knowledge. For the ear tests words, as the plates taste food. Let us choose justice for ourselves. Let us know among ourselves what is good. For Job has said, I am righteous, but God has taken away my justice. Should I lie concerning my right? My wound is incurable, though I am without transgression. What man is like Job, who drinks scorn like water, who goes in company with the workers of iniquity? And walks wicked men. For he has said, it profits a man nothing that he should delight in God. Therefore, listen to me, you men of understanding. Far be it from God to do wickedness, and from the Almighty to commit iniquity. For he repays man according to his work, and makes man to find a reward according to his way. Surely God will never do wickedly, nor will the Almighty pervert justice. Who gave him charge over the earth? Or who appointed him over the whole world? If he should set his heart on it, and if he should gather to himself his spirit and his breath, all flesh would perish together. Man would return to dust. If you have understanding, hear this. Listen to the sound of my words. Should one who hates justice govern, will you condemn him who is most just? Is it fitting to say to a king, you are worthless, and to nobles, you are wicked? Yet he's not partial to princes, nor does he regard the rich more than the poor, for they are all the work of his hands. In a moment they die in the middle of the night, and the people are shaken and pass away. The mighty are taken away without a hand, for his eyes are on the ways of man, and he sees all his steps. There's no darkness nor shadow of death, where the workers of iniquity may hide themselves, for he need not further consider a man that he should go before God in judgment. He breaks in pieces mighty men without inquiry and sets others in their place. Therefore, he knows their works. He overthrows them in the night, and they are crushed. He strikes them as wicked men in the open sight of others, because they turned back from him and would not consider any of his ways, so that they caused the cry of the poor to come to him. For he hears the cry of the afflicted, and when he gives quietness, who then can make trouble? And when he hides his face, who then can see him, whether it is against a nation or a man alone? That the hypocrite should not reign, lest the people be ensnared. For has anyone said to God, I have borne chastening, I will offend no more. Teach me what I do not see. If I have done iniquity, I will do no more. Should he repay it according to your terms? Just because you disavow it, you must choose, and not I. Therefore, speak what you know. And this verse right here, he said, teach me what I do not see, and if I've done iniquity, I will do no more. And he says, should God repay you according to your terms? And my translation of this says, should God repay it to your terms when when you disregarded his? I'm paraphrasing. But I thought that was really interesting how whenever after we've done something wrong, we'll say, Lord, like, okay, I'll change right now. I'll fix it. I won't do it anymore. And he's saying, should God just agree to your terms? Whenever you disregarded his terms, he told you not to do it, you were disobedient, and now you're like, okay, I won't do it again. You can stop punishing me. I think that's quite interesting. Men of understanding say to me, wise men who listen to me, Job speaks without knowledge, and his words are without wisdom. Oh, that Job were tried to the utmost, because his answers are like those of a wicked man. For he adds rebellion to his sin. He claps his hands among us, and multiplies his words against God. Moreover, Elihu answered and said, Do you think? Let's see. Do you think is right? Do you say my righteousness is more than God? For you say, what advantage will it be to you? What profit shall I have more than if I have sinned? I will answer you and your companions with you. Look at the heavens and see, and behold the clouds, they are higher than you. If you sin, what do you accomplish against him? Or if your transgressions are multiplied, what do you do to him? If you are righteous, what do you give him? Or what does he perceive from your hand? Your wickedness affects a man such as you, and your righteousness a son of man. Because of the multitude of oppressions, they cry out. Did you guys hear that? He says, your wickedness will affects a man such as you, and your righteousness a son of man. So your wickedness will impact you. The wicked things that you do, you will be the ones impacted by it. He says, but your righteousness, the goodness that you project, it affects the son of man. So it affects others. That's what I got out of that. I thought that was interesting. Because of the multitude of opponents they cry out for help because of the arm of the mighty. But no one says, where is God, my maker, who gives songs in the night? Who teaches us more than the beasts of the earth and makes us wise as birds of heaven. There they cry out, but he does not answer because of the pride of evil men. Surely God will not listen to the empty talk. Now, nor will the Almighty regard it. Although you say you do not see him, yet is before him, and you must wait for him. And now, because he has not punished in his anger, nor taken much notice of folly, therefore Job opens his mouth vain, and he multiplies words without knowledge. Elihu goes on to say, he says, Elihu also proceeded and said, bear with me a little, and I'll show you that there are yet words to speak on God's behalf. I will fetch my knowledge from afar, and I will give righteousness to my Maker. For truly my words are not false. One who is perfect in knowledge is with you. Elihu is the only one out of all of them. He is the youngest biologically, but he is the only one, all of them, that defends God. Everybody else condemns Job and say, you've done this wrong. This is why this is happening to you. But Elihu is the only one that stands up for God. He says, behold, God is mighty, but despises no one. He hates no one. He is mighty in strength of understanding. He does not preserve the life of the wicked, but gives justice to the oppressed. He does not withdraw his eyes from the righteous, but they are on the throne with kings. For he has seated them forever, and they are exalted. And if they are bound and held in the cord of afflictions, then he tells them their work and their transgressions, that they have acted defiantly. He also opens their ear to instructions and commands that they turn from iniquity. If they obey and serve him, they shall spend their days in prosperity and their years in pleasure. But if they do not obey, they shall perish by the sword, and they shall die without knowledge. But the hypocrites in heart store up wrath. They do not cry for help when he binds them. They die in youth, and their life ends among the perverted persons. He delivers the poor in their affliction and opens their ears in oppression. Indeed, he have brought you out of dire distress into a broad place where there is no restraint, and what is set on your table would be full of richness. But you are filled with the judgment due the wicked. Judgment and justice take hold of you, because there is wrath. Beware lest he take you away with one blow. For a large ransom would not help you avoid it. Will your riches or all the mighty forces keep you from distress? Do not desire the night when people are cut off in their place. Take heed, do not turn to iniquity, for you have chosen this rather than affliction. Behold, God is exalted by his power. Who teaches like him? Who has assigned him his way? Or who has said you have done wrong? Did you guys catch this? He says, do not desire the night when people are cut off in their place. He says, take heed. Do not turn to iniquity, for you have chosen this rather than affliction. And he's saying, because you are afflicted, instead of being afflicted, you've turned to iniquity by being rebellious against God. Reading in between the lines, by being rebellious. Iniquity is like a perversion of the truth. Elihu goes on to say, Behold, God is exalted by his power, who teaches like him, who has assigned him his way, or who has said, you have done wrong. Remember, remember to magnify his work, of which men have sung. Everyone has seen it. Man looks at it from afar. Behold, God is great, and we do not know him, nor can the number of his years be discovered. For he draws up drops of water, which distill as rain from the mist, which the clouds drops down and pour abundantly on man. Indeed, can anyone understand the spreading of clouds? The thunder from his canopy, look, he scatters his light upon it and covers the depths of the sea. For by these he judges the people. He gives food in abundance. He covers his hands with lightning and commands it to strike. His thunder declares it, the cattle also, concerning the rising storm. At this also my heart trembles and leaps in its place. Hear attentively the thunder of his voice and the rumbling that comes from his mouth. He sends it forth under the whole heaven, his lightning to the ends of the earth. It after it a voice roars, he thunders with his majestic voice. He does not restrain them when his voice is heard. God thunders marvelously with his voice. He does great things which we cannot comprehend. He says to the snow, fall on the earth. Likewise, the gentle rain and the heavy rain of his strength. He seals the hand of every man that all men may know his work. The beasts go into the dens and remain in their lairs. From the chamber of the south comes the whirlwind, and cold from the scattering winds of the north. By the breath of God, ice is given, and the broad water is frozen. Also with moisture, he saturates the thick clouds, and he scatters his bright clouds, and they swirl about, being turned by his guidance, that they may do whatever he commands them on the face of the whole earth. He causes it to come, whether for a correction or his land, or for his mercy, or for mercy. Listen to this, O Job. Stand still and consider the wondrous works of God. Do you know when God dispatches them and causes the light of his cloud to shine? Do you know how the clouds are balanced, those wondrous works of him who is perfect in knowledge? Why are your garments hot when he quiets the earth by the sun? With him have you spread out the skies, strong as a cast metal mirror. Teach what we should say to him, for we can prepare nothing because of the darkness. Should he be told that I wish to speak, and man were to speak, surely he would be swallowed up. Even now, men cannot look at the light when it is bright in the skies, when the wind has passed and cleared them. He comes from forth as golden splendor, and with God is awesome majesty. As for the Almighty, we cannot find him. He is excellent in power, in judgment, and abundant justice. He does not oppress, therefore men fear him. He shows no partiality to any who are wise of heart. And then God finally comes on the scene. And it says, the Lord answered Job out of a whirlwind and said, who is this who darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Now prepare yourself like a man. I'll question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched out the line? Who stretched the line upon it? To what were its foundations fastened? Or who laid its cornerstones? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut in the sea with doors when it burst forth and issued the womb? When I made the clouds its garments and thick darkness its swaddling band? When I fixed my limit for it and set bars and doors? And when I said, this far you may come, but no farther, and here your proud ways must stop? Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It takes on form like clay under a sill, and stands out like a garment. From the wicked their light is withheld, and the upraised arm is broken. Have you entered the springs of the sea? Or have you walked in search of the depths? Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Or have you seen the doors of the shadow of death? Have you comprehended the breadth of the earth? Tell me if you know all this. Where is the way to the dwelling of light? and darkness where its place, that you may take it to its territory, that you may know the path to its home. Do you know it because you were born then, or because the number of your days are great? Have you entered the treasury of snow, or have you seen the treasury of hell? When I have reserved for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war, by what way is light diffused, or the east wind scattered over the earth? Who has divided a channel for the overflowing waters, or a path for the thunderbolt, to cause it to rain on a land where there is no one, a wilderness in which there is no man, to satisfy the desolate waste, and cause to spring forth the growth of tender grass? Has the rain a father? Or who has begotten the drops of dew? From whose womb comes the ice and the frost of heaven? Who gives it birth? The waters harden like stone, and the surface of the deep is frozen. Can you bind the cluster of the Pleiades, or loose the belt of Orion? Can you bring out Mazzaroth in its season, or can you guide the great bear with its cubs? Do you know the ordinance of the heavens? Can you set their dominion over the earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, that an abundance of water may cover you? Can you send out lightnings that they may go and say to you, here we are? Who has put wisdom in the mind, or who has given understanding to the heart? Who can number the clouds by them, or who can pour out the bottles of heaven? When the dust hardens in clumps and the clods cling together, can you hunt the prey for the lion, or satisfy the appetite of the young lions? When they crouch in their dens, or lurk in their lairs to lie in wait, who provides food for the raven? When its young ones cry to God and wander about for lack of food. You hear this? He says, who provides food for the raven when its young ones cry to God? So even the birds cry out to God, for they know. Do you know the time when the wild mountain goats bear young? Or can you mark when the deer gives birth? Can you number the months that they fulfill? Or do you know the time when they bear young? They bow down, they bring forth their young, they deliver their offspring. Their their young ones are healthy. They are strong with grain. They depart and do not return to them. Who set the wild donkey free? Who loosed the bonds of the onager? Whose home I have made the wilderness, and the barren land his dwelling. He scorns the tumult of the city. He does not heed the shout of the driver. The range of the mountains is his pasture, and he searches after every green thing. Will the wild ox be willing to serve you? Will he bed by your manger? Can you bind the wild ox in the furrow with ropes? Or will he plow the valleys behind you? Will you trust him because his strength is great, or will you leave your land to him? Will you trust him to bring home your grain and gather it to your threshing floor? The wings of the ostrich wave proudly, but are her wings and pinions like the kindly stork's? For she leaves her eggs on the ground and warms them in the dust. She forgets that a foot may crush them, or that a wild beast may break them. She treats her young harshly, as though they were not hers. Her labor is in vain without concern, because God deprived her of wisdom and did not endow her with understanding. When she lifts herself on high, she scorns the horse and its rider. Have you given the horse strength? Have you clothed his neck with thunder? Can you frighten him like a locust? His majestic snorting strikes terror. He paws in the valley and rejoices in his strength. He gallops in the clash of arms. He mocks at fear and is not frightened. Nor does he turn back from the sword. The driver rattles against him the glitter spear and javelin. He devours the distance with fierceness and rage. Nor does he come to a halt because the trumpet has sounded. At the blast of the trumpet, he says, ha! He smells the battle from afar, the thunder of captives and shouting. Does the hawk fly by your bosom and spread its wing toward the south? Does the eagle mount up at your command and make its nest on high? On the rock it dwells and resides, on the crag rock and the stronghold. From there it spies out the prey. Its eyes observe from afar. Its young ones suck up blood, and where the slain are, there it is. Moreover, the Lord answered Job and said, shall the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? He who rebukes God, let answer. And then Job answered the Lord and said, behold, I am vile. What shall I answer you? I lay my hand over my mouth. Once I have spoken, but I will not answer. Yes, twice, but I will proceed no further. And then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind, and said, prepare yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Would you indeed annul my judgment? Meaning, would you cancel my judgment? Would you condemn me that you may be justified? Have you an arm like God, or can you thunder with a voice like his? Adorn yourself with majesty and splendor, and array yourself with glory and beauty. Disperse the rage of your wrath. Look on everyone who is proud and humble him. Look on everyone who is proud and bring him low. Tread down the wicked in their place and hide them in the dust together, bind their faces in hidden darkness. Then I will also confess to you that your right hand can save you. Look now at the behemoth which I made along with you. He eats grass like an ox. See how his strength is in his hips and his power is in his stomach muscles. He moves his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are tightly knit. His bones are like beams of bronze, his ribs like bars of iron. He is the first of the ways of God. Only he who made him can bring near his sword. Surely the mountains yield food for him, and all the beasts of the field play there. He lies under the lotus trees in a covert of reeds and marsh. The lotus trees cover him with their shade. The willows by the brook surround him. Indeed, the river may rage, yet he is not disturbed. He is confident, though the Jordan gushes into his mouth, though he takes it in his eyes, or one pierces his nose with a snare. It looks like we disconnected. Okay. Can you draw out Leviathan with a hook or snare his tongue with a line which you lower? Can you put a reed through his nose or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make supplications to you? Will he speak softly to you? Will he make a covenant with you? Will you take him as a servant forever? Will you play with him as with a bird, or will you leash him for your maidens? Will your companions make a banquet of him, and will they apportion him along among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with harpoons, or his heads with fishing spears? Lay your hand on him. Remember the battle and never do it again. Indeed, any hope of overcoming him is false. Now, this is actually really interesting because he's saying here that Leviathan, the only one that can deliver anybody from Leviathan is God Himself. God is the only one that can deliver from Leviathan. It looks like we got disconnected, and it looks like we're now reconnected. So, by the grace of God, we'll power through this. We're almost done, and so we're going to finish the book of Job because there's only one chapter left, I believe, after this. So he says, indeed, if any hope of overcoming him is false, shall one not be armed at the sight of him? No one is so fierce that he would dare stir him. Who then is able to stand against me? Who has preceded me that I should pay him? Everything under heaven is mine, and I will not conceal his limbs, his mighty power, or his graceful proportions. Who can remove his outer coat? Who can approach him with a double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face with his terrible teeth all around? His rows of scales are his pride, shut up tightly as with a seal. One is so near another, that no air can come between them. They are joined to one another and cannot be parted. His sneezing flash forth light, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning light, sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke goes out of his nostrils as from a boiled pot and burning rushes. His breath kindles coals, and a flame goes out of his mouth. Strength dwells in his neck, and sorrows dance before him. The folds of his flesh are joined together. They are firm on him and cannot be moved. His heart is as one as hard as stone, even as hard as a lower millstone. When he raises himself up, the mighty are afraid because of his crashings. They are besides themselves. Though the sword reaches him, it cannot avail, nor the spear, dart, or javelin. He regards iron as straw, and bronze as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones become like stubble to him. Darts are regarded as straw, and he laughs at the threat of javelins. His undersides are like sharp potsherd, and he spreads pointed marks in the mire. He makes the deep boil like a pot, and he makes the sea like a pot of ointment. And so the Leviathan comes from the sea. He's a sea creature, a marine spirit, and he leaves a shining behind him. One would think the deep had white hair. On earth there is nothing like him, which is made without fear. He beholds every high thing, and he is king over all the children of pride. And so Job, he then repents and he restores. So there was some sort of like in iniquity in Job, because this is the part of him repenting. And then once he repents, God restores him. Says Job answered the Lord and said, I know that you can do everything and that no purpose of yours can be withheld from you. You asked, who is this who hides counsel without knowledge? For I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. Listen, please, and let me speak. You said, I'll question you, and you shall answer me. I have heard of you by the hearings of the ear, but now my eyes see you. Therefore I abhor myself and repent in dust and ash. And so it was after the Lord had spoken these words to Job that the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, my wrath is aroused against you and your two friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. Now therefore take for yourselves 7 bulls and 7 rams. Go to my servant Job and offer up for yourself a burnt offering, and my servant Job shall pray for you, for I will accept him, lest I deal with you according to your folly, because you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. So Eliphaz the Temanite and Bildad the Shuhite and Zophar the Naamathite went and did as the Lord commanded them, for the Lord has accepted Job. And the Lord restored Job's losses when he prayed for his friends. So when Job began to intercede, God restored him. And indeed, the Lord gave Job twice as he had before. Then all his brothers, all his sisters, and all those who had been his acquaintances before came to him and ate food with him in his house. And they consoled him and comforted him for all the adversity that the Lord had brought upon him. Each one gave him a piece of silver and each a ring of gold. Now the Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than the beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, and 1,000 yoke of oxen, and a 1,000 female donkeys. And a yoke, there's it looks like, I think I could be wrong, but with a yoke, one yoke is 2 different oxen. So you have like, because you have like a yoke and a yoke, and there's like this wooden bar that kind of that binds them together. So when he says one yoke of oxen, I believe that meant like there's actually two. So maybe counting them individually, he had 2,000 oxen separately, but 1,000 yoke of oxen and 1,000 female donkeys. And he also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. And he called the name of the first Jemina, the name of the second Keziah, the name of the third Karen Hepach. And in all the land were found no women so beautiful as the daughters of Job, and their father gave them as an inheritance among their brothers. And after this, Job lived 140 years. After he went through everything, he was also given an extended life and saw his children and grandchildren for 4 generations. So Job died old and full of days. And tomorrow we're going to start Psalms. I know today was kind of long. We were going to finish it, but I felt that it was so good. And it is, let's see. Yes, I think we got disconnected earlier. At least it showed that there was disconnecting on my end, but we'll, by the grace of God, hopefully it wasn't disconnected for too long. So we'll see. We'll find out. We'll find. But maybe, oh my goodness, don't say that, chat. It says, I guess everyone else has been raptured. Well, that poses a problem if we're still here. So that's a big problem. But guys, that's all we're going to cover today. I wanted to show you something else really quick, and we can probably touch tomorrow too if we have time. I know it's almost, we've been going for like a, if we go here, I think it's Hebrew 11. We probably don't have time to get into it today. Yeah, we can look at it really quick. But Hebrew 11, it talks about faith and it talks about affliction as well. And it's very uplifting. And so when we get down here, um, let's see, having hope in God and faith. And so when we get down here to 25, let's see, right here. So when we get here, it says, by faith, Moses, when he became of age, refused to call the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction, excuse me, with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin. That's not the verse I was looking for. Let's see, where is it? Okay, so right here, we'll start here. So he says, by faith, he's talking about the power of faith and just knowing that no matter what you're going through, God will come through. God's in control. So he says, by faith, the walls of Jericho fell down. They were encircled for 7 days. By faith, the harlot Rahab did not perish with those who did not believe when she had received the spies with peace. And what more shall I say? For the time would fail me to tell of Gideon and Barak and Samson and Jephthah, also of David and Samuel and the prophets who through subdued kingdoms worked righteousness, obtained promises, and stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, became valiant in battle, and turned to flight to flight the armies of the aliens. Women received their dead raised up again. And so they're saying like by faith. And so Job kind of lost faith in the midst of going through all the things he was going through. And he began to speak against, the goodness of God, saying that he said that God was, he was powerful and there was no one like him. He was the highest of the high. He said all those things. But at the end of the day, he began to say, God has cursed me. God has done this and I've done nothing wrong. And if you're saying that God has done something to you and you don't deserve it, you're calling God unrighteous and unjust. And he began to rebel against God. But we see here when we read on to verse 35, the part B, he says, others were tortured, not accepting deliverance that they may obtain a better resurrection. Still, others had trials of money and scourges, yes, and of chains and imprisonment. And these were people that had faith as well. They were stoned, they were sawn in two, were tempted, they were slain with the sword. They wandered about in sheepskin and goatskin, being destitute, afflicted, tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts and mountains, in dens and caves of the earth, and all these having obtained a good testimony through faith. So I think that sometimes we always think that, we're believing in something because again, I know we start off with the affliction of Job, but this is kind of going into a different direction. We'll probably pick up on it tomorrow. But believing in something, you don't always get what you're hoping for just because you have faith. And there's something else greater to be had. And I think that sometimes whenever we put our faith in the object, like in these instances, sometimes let's say you're hoping to, I don't know, you're hoping to get married and you put your faith in the marriage as opposed to your faith in knowing that God has your best interest in mind, then you will always be disappointed because your faith and hope was never in God, but was in the object that He could provide for you. For example, success. You have faith that you're starting a new business and you think you're going to be a millionaire because you're surrounded by other people that are very successful, but you're doing everything they're doing and you're not succeeding at it. And you have faith that you will succeed, and you're believing that God will bring you this great wealth, but you never walk into it. And so your faith may have been like wealth itself, as opposed to the actual having your faith and trusting that God knows best for you. And I guess I speak on this because I know some people that are, doing specific different types of career and they're hoping to acquire a lot of wealth. And I think that sometimes God will prevent you from doing that because He knows that once you receive that, He will lose you. It will change you and you will lose you. And people say money never changes anybody. Money doesn't change anybody, but often it does because they no longer use the money as a tool or a resource, but they become like the person in their mind that they think would have that type of money. So they don't just become wealthy, they become wealth. They have a wealth mindset. And so they lose who they used to be and adopt a new persona almost. But that's a different conversation for a different day. But that's all we're going to cover. And so, yes, had I 1,000, chat says we've been left as warriors. Absolutely not. That is not what scripture says. Oh, Lord have mercy. Yeah, you do. You get what you need. God gives us exactly what we need. He gives us exactly what we need. Um, but and we have to be grateful. I think too, with reading Job, I think one of the biggest things that he did not do is he did not maintain a posture of gratitude. He didn't. In the beginning, he did, but sometimes you get battle fatigue and you get tired and wore out. So, but anyway, that's all we're going to cover. So I pray that God would just bless you guys today. I pray that you guys have a fantastic Tuesday. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. And hopefully we were live the other time. Hopefully there was no disconnects, but we'll find out. So anyway, glory be to God. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Blessings, everybody.